All right. So my wife, 37F, and I, 39M, have been hitched for 15 years and we've got two kids, a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. About a year and a half ago, my wife comes up to me and drops the bomb that she wants an open marriage. She's all, I'm bored with just us and want to experience more. I was totally against it. I mean, I've always believed marriage is between two people. Backstory. When we tied the knot, I'd had 5 sexual partners before her, and she'd only been with me. She made it clear, though, that if we didn't open things up, she'd go for a divorce. Neither of us wanted that, so I reluctantly agreed but laid down some ground rules. No bringing partners back home, no talking about who we're seeing, kids and family stay in the dark, everyone gets tested beforehand, and no hooking up with mutual friends. Kinda had a feeling she already had someone lined up. And sure enough, 24 hours later, she's out until 4 a.m. It was hard to swallow, not gonna lie, but I wanted to save our marriage. Fast forward to last May, I met Amber. Our daughters are in the marching band together. Amber's divorced and not looking to remarry, but hey, she's got needs too. So, 5 months into this open marriage thing, I start sleeping with Amber. At first, it felt like cheating, but honestly, it was kinda nice having a no-strings-attached deal. Neither of us wanted it to get serious. Over time, I got comfy with the idea that my wife and I could get our needs met both in and outside of our marriage. It even spiced up our own sex life. My wife's fling ended in April because of COVID. Apparently, her guy's in an open marriage too, but his wife doesn't know. So sneaking around got complicated. In May, we organized a Zoom concert for the band kids, and my wife met Amber for the first time. Amber's been pretty open with a few of the other moms, so it got back to my wife that Amber was my outside partner. My wife was furious and told me I had to end things with Amber because we both know her now. I said no, pointing out that we didn't know her before and we weren't breaking any rules. For the past month, my wife's been bugging me to stop seeing Amber, even though she was cool with her own thing for a year. This past weekend, she told me she wants to close our marriage. I said fine, but only if we agree it stays closed for good. She was on board with that, but lost it when I asked her to waive spousal support if we divorce. She's never worked since we married, and she freaked out, thinking I'd leave her with nothing. I offered a compromise. We could list situations like infidelity on my part, where the agreement would be void. She wasn't having it and said she's not going to be cheated on and left penniless if I decide to leave for Amber. I pointed out this was all her idea, and I only agreed to save our marriage. She basically said it's either close the marriage or get divorced. I told her I'm not going to be blackmailed with divorce every time she wants her way. So, should I cave without any conditions? I know there's no future with Amber. It's purely physical. But I feel like I'm wrecking my marriage over a dead-end fling. I'm also pretty sure this isn't about Amber at all. Update. This morning, I called Amber to remind her about keeping things discreet, and she swears she didn't spill the beans. Checked my wife's Google timeline and found out she followed me to Amber's house in April. She then introduced herself to Amber just to stir up trouble. I thought she wanted to get involved with other band parents, but nope. She just wanted to mess things up with my outside partner. No clue what to do now. Comments. Al Frosty. I think your wife freaked out because she doesn't plan to stay with you long term. OP. Exactly what I thought. I'm not trying to screw her financially, but what if she wants to open things up again in a year or two? I'm not going to be blackmailed with divorce whenever she feels like it. John Miller. Your marriage is already over. Good luck. OP. I'm starting to realize that. She's not the same person I married, and it sucks. Lady Magpie. If her side guy's wife doesn't know, he's just cheating. OP. Yep, my wife thought it was open, but he was just messing around without his wife's knowledge. So, should I push for these conditions or just agree to close the marriage again? So, here's the deal. There were specific moments like her cheating or me saying no to opening up our marriage again that she just wouldn't talk about. The last thing I want is to be 6 months down the line and her new fling wants to start things up again, or she finds someone new and threatens me with divorce if I don't agree to an open marriage. I'm not trying to mess her up financially. I just wanted to see if she'd agree not to pressure me for an open marriage again. But she made it clear she wouldn't promise that. Now, about how I met Amber. I met her through band activities with our daughters, though our girls aren't close, just both in the band. My wife was never into the band scene. It wasn't her thing. But with the quarantine, she was bored and decided she'd help out with concert stuff. Should I have stopped her because Amber, my outside partner, was a band mom? Probably, but my wife wasn't involved with the band until a year after I started seeing Amber. Turns out, she suddenly got interested in band for a very specific reason. Recap time. My wife told me she wanted an open marriage. I wasn't on board, but agreed when she said she'd divorce me otherwise. She had a new partner within a day, while it took me a few months. Her relationship ended, and she started stalking me, even introducing herself to Amber to try and force me to end things. When that didn't work, she demanded we close the marriage again. I set some conditions she wasn't willing to meet. Last month has been rough. I confronted her about the stalking, which she denied until I showed her the location data. Then she tried to deflect by saying I invaded her privacy, but I didn't fall for it. She admitted she didn't like me having someone on the side while she didn't. Plus, Amber being a school mom hit too close to home. I told her I'd end things with Amber if she agreed to counseling, closed the marriage permanently, and started looking for a job to help with expenses. She said she's a stay-at-home mom, but I told her we'd revisit this when things normalized after the pandemic. We did a few therapy sessions, which went well at first. The therapist made her confront why she went outside the marriage and about the stalking. But then it went downhill. She confessed her outside partner was an old high school boyfriend she regretted not going all the way with back then. That made me furious. I checked into a hotel to cool off because I didn't want our kids to see me that angry. When I got back home, my daughter was giving me the cold shoulder more than usual. She accused me of cheating on her mom with a band mom, something my wife apparently told her. After calming down, I showed my daughter the hotel receipt and explained that her mom and I had a fight, so I took some time away. She cried a lot, and I promised her I'd always love her, staying calm even though I was fuming inside. Instead of confronting my wife, I found the guy's wife on Facebook and told her about the affair. She was thankful, as she suspected something for a while. A few hours later, my wife came to me, furious, saying I violated therapy confidentiality and ruined the guy's life. I confronted her about telling our daughter I had a girlfriend, which she denied. That all went down last Thursday, and we haven't talked since. We have another counseling session tomorrow, but I'm unsure if it's worth it. She keeps lying, and I don't think I'll ever trust her again. I know divorce is the right move now, but it makes me sick thinking about it. I feel like I failed because I couldn't make the marriage work. But it's clear where this is heading, and talking to an attorney is probably the best step, no matter how hard it feels. For the sake of the kids, we need to do this right. I hope you find some peace in all this chaos, man. It's time to contact that attorney and start moving forward. Best of luck to you. Hey there. So, here's the deal. If you're being real with yourself, it sounds like your wife opened up the relationship because she was either cheating or planning to cheat. Then, when things didn't work out for her, she didn't want you to have any fun while she wasn't. She doesn't help around the house and has no intention of doing so, constantly lies, and you seriously think anything's going to change? When someone shows you who they are, believe them. It's her way or the highway. So, like I said, talk to an attorney, sort out your finances, and get out of this toxic relationship. Oh, and just to be clear, you didn't fail. Your wife wanted to cheat, but didn't want to call it that. She never imagined or wanted you to do the same. The fact she said she'd divorce you if you didn't go along is super manipulative. Plus, her trying to mess up your relationship with your daughter is just the final straw. I wouldn't see this as fixable, but don't beat yourself up over it. It's all your wife going off the rails, and you tried to hang on. Maybe it's time to let go. Also, be upfront with your daughter about everything. It's all going to come out eventually, so better she hears the truth from you than a bunch of rumors and lies. Okay, onto a totally different story. So, I finally met my biological dad after 30 years, and we really hit it off on his boat. But then, he ended up cheating with my girlfriend at a family dinner, and she got pregnant while he was still married. My girlfriend and I had been together for almost 4 years before everything went south. We met through some mutual friends during a Halloween haunted house event. Everyone else was coupled up, so we ended up spending a lot of time together and hit it off at a beer garden. By the end of the night, we exchanged numbers and started dating. She moved in with me about a year and a half later. Growing up, I never knew my dad and always wanted to find out who he was. My mom told me he didn't want her to keep me when she got pregnant, and she wanted nothing to do with him after that. She raised me alone until she met my stepdad, and they had more kids. Every time I asked about my dad, she shut me down. I eventually gave up on knowing him, but my girlfriend convinced me to try again, especially after a cousin of mine passed away from cancer. We went to my mom, asking about my father from a health history angle. And finally, she gave me his name. I reached out to him, and to my surprise, he wanted to meet. My girlfriend came along for support. Seeing him for the first time was surreal because of how much I looked like him. It was an emotional roller coaster, but my girlfriend was there for me. About a week after, he reached out again, wanting to get to know me. My girlfriend encouraged it, so we went fishing on his boat. We had a good time, drank some beers, and talked a lot. He told me about his current family and his kids. Before we left, he and my girlfriend exchanged numbers to set up another meetup with his family. A few weeks later, my phone got smashed at work, so I had to transfer my contacts to a new one. I needed my dad's number, so I grabbed my girlfriend's phone to get it since I knew her password. I found a whole history of calls between them that she never mentioned. This all started the day we went on the boat. Yeah, so that's it. Man, I was so lucky to have her. Right from the start, we hit it off as friends, and she thanked me, saying she felt lucky to have me too. But then things took a weird turn. My dad started getting super flirty with her. He kept telling her how beautiful she was, and even joked that if I didn't treat her right, he might have to step in. It was so creepy, especially since he's married with kids. At first, my girlfriend played along, even saying she'd be happy to let him step in if needed. Then their messages got really suggestive. They were always hinting at wanting to hook up without outright saying it. It was pretty obvious what was going on, but it seemed like just flirting until my dad sent her a nude photo. He told her a new pic she posted on Instagram turned him on. She replied that she was glad it did and then sent him some racy pictures of herself. They exchanged a ton of photos, videos, and audio recordings. I clicked on one video my dad sent her, and it was him talking about all the dirty things he wanted to do to her. You could even hear kids running around in the background. Through their messages, it was clear they hadn't hooked up in person yet, but they were planning to sneak off to his boat while everyone was at his house. Before my girlfriend woke up, I put her phone back and pretended I didn't see anything. I was so hurt. My dad had known about me my whole life, but acted like I didn't exist. And now, when I finally get to meet him, he flirts with my girlfriend. She knew how important meeting him was to me and still decided to sleep with him. I felt totally betrayed by both of them. I decided I wanted them to pay for their choices. Since the dinner with my dad was only a week away, I sucked it up and acted like everything was fine. On the day of the dinner, I somehow restrained myself and made it through the meal without attacking him. Instead, I spent time getting to know my stepmom, and I felt bad for her. Honestly, if he was messaging my girlfriend after knowing her for such a short time, I wouldn't be surprised if he had other affairs. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie together. My dad said he wasn't interested and had stuff to do on his boat, so he excused himself. About 15 minutes into the movie, my girlfriend got a phone call. I didn't see her phone ring or light up, so I knew it was just a cover to go out and meet my dad. She was gone for a bit, and I mentioned to my stepmom that it was weird she'd been gone so long. Thankfully, the kids had fallen asleep on the couch, so there was no worry about disturbing them. I told my stepmom I'd go check on my girlfriend, and she paused the movie for me. I knew I wouldn't find my girlfriend on the porch, but I checked anyway, then went back in and told my stepmom she was gone. She got concerned and suggested we go ask my dad. We headed to his boat, and as soon as we opened the door to the lower level, we could hear sex noises. She yelled my dad's name, and suddenly, it went silent. It took him a minute, but he came to the door and acted like we were disturbing him. When she asked what he was doing, he said he was rearranging furniture. I almost laughed. I asked if my girlfriend was with him, and he tried to play it off as ridiculous. I pushed past him and found her trying to put her clothes back on as quietly as possible. A four-way argument broke out, and even though I expected it, my reaction was still raw. I was hurt and angry, and I let it show. Nobody knew I had almost planned this discovery. My stepmom kicked my dad out that night. I went back to my apartment, packed a bag, and got the heck out of there. I couldn't be around my girlfriend after that. A few weeks later, I moved out entirely. I found out my dad had been looking for a place to crash, and my girlfriend invited him over. They started seeing each other, and she got pregnant. Turns out my dad had a pattern. He told her he already had kids and was trying to patch things up with his wife, so he couldn't have another baby in the mix. He tried to deny the baby was his and even pushed her to get an abortion, but she refused. When I found out, I informed my stepmom so she'd know he was lying. She thanked me and promised to stay away from him. All our mutual friends were appalled at what my girlfriend did. They couldn't believe she'd sleep with someone whose relationship with me was so fragile. Most of them stopped talking to her. In the end, she had my dad's baby, but he wasn't in the picture. My dad divorced his wife and had to pay child support and alimony. A DNA test confirmed he was the father of my ex-girlfriend's child, so he had to pay child support for that too. I highly doubt he saw any of his paychecks after all that.